In the workshop, we are going to be working on a Husqvarna 55 wrencher today. Let's see what we can find with it. It's a little bit older model saw. Pretty good old saws. I've worked on a couple of, I think they were 51s and maybe a 55 also before. I don't know. Anyways, they're not too bad a saw. They last for a long time, I think. This one here came in, I think, let's see what the customer had to say for it. It said, sharpen chain, so we'll do that. Won't rev. Check all, new rope, give it the works. Okay, so I see the rope is hanging loose, so either it's gotten stretched out, the spring is skipped, or whatever, so we'll have to pull the cover off and see if we can fix that. We'll go ahead and take the top off, check the air filters, check the plug. We'll go ahead and sharpen the chain, and I think before I do anything, we're going to go ahead and maybe I'll take her out here and clean her up again. Like I say, we need to start out, I think, with just cleaning them up and get some of the grease and oils and dirts off of them. That way we don't want to get it into the carburetors and places it ain't supposed to be while I'm tearing it down. And I just like working on clean equipment, as always. So we're going to take her out here. Let's clean her up, and then we'll bring her back in here and start tearing her apart. Okay, looks like we had a little trouble with our sound here. I don't know exactly what happened. I've been using the camera right along and it was recording, but it didn't. So anyways, we'll go ahead and look the saw over. It's all cleaned up and we got it ready to go. And first thing I wanted to do is go ahead and check the gas to make sure there's no water or anything in there. And I pulled a little bit out, sampled it, looks good, smells good. So I think the saw is in good shape at this point. I think we want to go ahead and take the 3 screws out. That'll remove that top cover from us, and we'll be able to look at the air filter and gain access to the spark plug and that kind of thing. So we'll go ahead and get this removed. Okay, we removed the little screw in the middle of the spark or the air filter here so that we can gain access to it. Take a look at it. It's actually pretty filthy, so we'll go ahead and work on ordering a new one of those and get it in here. Other than that, I don't see a whole lot else wrong with it. And these saws, they don't have primer bulbs or anything, so we don't have to worry about that. It's pretty simple. Gas in the carburetor, gas out. So everything looks pretty good. I think we're going to go ahead and just see if the thing will run and make a little bit of noise. So let me, found a little screw. Yeah, it fell out of that little breather cap. That's what the screw of the other one goes into. We'll set that aside, hopefully not lose it, and it'll be there when I'm ready to put it back together. So anyways, that's where that came from. And we'll choke it and we'll set her down there and see if we can get her to fire up. Okay, you can't tell that because there's no sound still on this frame, but it is running, but it's choking out on high speed. You can see me here, there's 2 little screws, a high and a low setting on here, and I'm adjusting on the high at this point to try to get it so that it stops choking out as I'm giving it the throttle. Twisting it back and forth, it shuts off once or twice as I choke it out. As you see here, it shows you which one's the high and the low jet, and I wanted to make sure I was on the right one. I thought I was, and I was. So there's some small stops in there that come with this saw and kind of tries to keep you in line of where it should be adjusted. So we're just kind of making sure those points are there. We'll start it back up and continue adjusting on the 2 jets to see if we can get her to idle out and start up strong. And that's all I'll be doing right here. And at some point here, I do have it running smooth and able to power up. It does take a little bit of messing back and forth with them. Sometimes you have to adjust the low range and the high range in order to get it there. So kind of mess with them. Keep an eye on about where you started. That way you can always return back to where it at least was running and not have yourself so far off that you can't figure out how to get it started again. You always want to be able to make sure you can start it. So anyways, it does take a couple minutes, but wish you could hear it. She was purring like a kitten at this point, I think. I don't know because I can't hear it either. So we'll let her sit here and run. Let me see if I can maybe reduce this down a little bit. Seems how we can't do anything but listen to me jabber. Okay, we're looking now at the pull cord, I think. We're going to go ahead and, I think at this point, we went ahead and take the side cover off. There's about, I think 3-4 screws there. It's a Phillips head screwdriver. Go ahead and remove those. And that'll pop this top right off. And we're just on basically shorten this rope because it's just really a little bit too long for the recoil on it. It's stretched or whatever. I don't think the spring is sprung. And so we'll just go ahead and remove all of this and take a quick look at it. Okay, I've got the cover off now, and we're going to take a little look at it. It's all dirty and nasty down in there. That could be part of the problem. It's just not allowing that to come all the way back in. The spring feels good. Not much to it. Take the rope as it sticks through there. There's a little knot on the end of it. We'll basically just have to pull that rope up and cut this knot out. And we'll show you how I do that next. So I think we're going to go ahead and clean all this up though before I play with it. As I go, I always like to clean stuff up. Okay, we've got her all cleaned up, and I'm going to go ahead and go through the procedure real quick here with you on how I change out the rope. It's not a real difficult one. I just pull a lot of tension to it. I like to just take a little quick clamp and got it a little bit too close. You need to leave room in there so you can get a hold of that end of the rope. That clamps it down and keeps the spring on there so you don't have to try to respring it. Reach in there and grab a hold of the rope. Sometimes they're packed in there fairly tight, so you get them out of their little pair of pliers or whatever. There we go. And once you get it out of there, just cut the knot off the end of it. And I usually do it somewhat close to the end up here so I know about how long a rope I need to make sure I have to put it back in. And I've got me a small piece of rope. It's about the same diameter. You want to try to make sure that's good. And just a little bit longer than I need, which is perfect. You want to have a little left over for your knots and whatnot. And you want to make sure you have plenty to do the job. So I usually burn the end a little bit. It's nylon. It'll burn a little bit and melt. And it'll stick to your fingers. If you don't have tough fingers, I don't recommend doing this. Maybe a pair of gloves would help you. You can try to feed it in from this side. Most of the time that's pretty difficult unless it depends on the pull or the little receiver there that you're getting. Sometimes it's easier to push it in that way. Sometimes it's easier the other direction. Because I'm going to swap ends, I'm going to go ahead and burn the other end too. That way it don't matter which end I pull through. We'll start from the I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the side that's actually does the starting of the engine. Poke it down in there and it starts coming through. Grab a hold of the end of it and pull it up. That's the difficult part. Now we just tie a simple knot in there. I'm not a knot expert by any means, but it don't take a whole lot, just something that's not going to come out. So we put it in there, test it, make sure it's good and snug, make sure it's small enough to fit down into that hole basically that the other one come on, tie off and cut any excess that you had. That's pretty much why we leave a little extra, make sure I don't cheat myself on it. Because we want to have as much rope as you can in there, but not so much that it, like I say, it doesn't recoil the whole way. But if you get it too short, then you don't get a good enough pull on the thing to make it easy to start it. So it's kind of a good even in the middle. So try to keep with what was actually on there and working. Now when you go to release this, don't just let go because it'll suck that rope in there and can definitely cause some issues. Make sure you're, this is where I'm just making sure the end of the rope is tucked down in good. But keep a little tension on it so that when it pulls it back in, it keeps it tight on the roll. And you know you have a good tight roll and it's taking all the rope that it's supposed to. When it gets down to the end, it stops recoiling. You can go ahead and get your handle ready to go back on there. We slide the rope through, and then what we'll do is we'll take and pull just a little bit on that, just to make sure we have a little bit of tension on the spring so that it'll recoil, and we'll lock it back down there. Now we take our time and put a little knot on it. There again, nothing too fancy, just make sure we get it. And I don't know, I think I'll put a second knot in there. There's plenty of room in the handle, so we'll put 2 knots on this one. Pull it tight, make sure it's good, and pull her down into the handle. As she fits down in there, cut off any excess, let go of it, and then we just test to make sure that it retracts it completely and it's nice, free, smooth going. And that's pretty much all there is to getting her done. Cut off any extra, like I say, and we'll put her back on the chainsaw, and it'll be ready to get her started. Okay, I have a chainsaw that needs to be sharpened, so the way I do mine, I've got a little, basically a Dremel tool, sold, I think, Oregon or somebody sells, yeah, it's Oregon, which makes chains and everything else. You get the little bits with it. I think it's easier, a little quicker. You can do it by hand. This chain is definitely dull, but for me, I just soon do it this way. I mark one tooth with a little marker so I know where I start, and that way I don't miss any teeth. And you should be able to know what chain size you have, and you get a stone that fits your chain. You want to make sure you're not grinding way down into the bottom of it, or so big that you're taking the top off and not hitting into the center of this. And you'll want to sharpen it. And you want to do it as evenly as you can too. Each tooth you want to kind of grind it about the same amount, or otherwise you'll start cutting crooked, that kind of thing. And also we want to come back after we grind that just a little bit. It don't hurt to really come in and touch this little top right here, because that thing, the tip of those, that really determines how deep your cut is. A lot of times people will sharpen them up and they don't ever touch these, and it gets to the point where even with a sharp chain you're going to end up with nothing but sawdust. You want a little bit of chip. So as you cut, if you get in the sawdust even with a sharp chain, come back in and just touch that a little bit. You don't want to go too deep, because if you go too much, then it actually causes a problem and overloads your saw because it's trying to take too much off. So a little bit each time is not going to hurt. They do sell files that will sit on here and file that down to give you that proper distance. But like I say, best test I think is when I do it, I sharpen them up. I go out there and cut a little piece of wood, see if it's getting the right cut. If it's not, then I'll take a little bit more off of that. So that's all we do. We marked it up. We make sure our depth adjustment is set. We figure out our angle. This particular one's about a 35-degree angle. It's marked on the tool. So nothing to that. We start it up. Touch that, you go to the next one. Touch that up. And I do all the one direction, and then when I get done with that direction, I just simply turn the saw around and come back at it on the other one and get the other half of the teeth. So that's it. Just run around the saw as you go. That should be nice and sharp compared to the other ones once you hit it. Very dull. That one there's sharp. That one's sharp. So you can pretty well tell on this one, it definitely was needing a little sharpening. You can look down into the groove of this and make sure that you are cutting it at the right depth and that your stone is the right size. But like I say, your chain should come with instructions on it. If you ever buy a new saw or chain, you'll be able to tell what size actual file or grinder that you want. Either one of them will work. but like I say, I prefer this, so I'll go ahead and sharpen this one on up. Okay, it only took me a couple minutes. It's all sharpened up. Feels good. It's ready to go. Like I say, I like this little thing. It's kind of easy on me because it's 12 volt. It hook up to any old battery you want it to. Car battery, a power pack. I actually use a little plug-in 12 volt supply going to a little cigarette lighter adapter. So this can go right in your cigarette lighter. Take it with you out in the woods or whatever. Hook it up and file them down real quick. You don't have to take your chain off to take it downtown to get it sharpened. Saves you a couple dollars there. You pay for one of these in just a little bit of time, and it's real user-friendly, really, for a regular homeowner. So I recommend it. We sell a lot of these at a little hardware store around here that I work in part-time. So recommend them. But like I say, you can pick them on up. Saves you some time, a little bit. And we'll go on to the rest of the repairs for these. Alrighty, I've gone in and I've ordered up a new spark plug for this because that one's looking a little old. Got a new air filter coming in, so that'll come in. Like I say, I don't do a lot of that many repairs that I keep inventory on hand by any means. You know, big shops and all that. So I pretty much order as needed. I'll come up with a few miscellaneous parts on hand every now and then, but it only takes a day or two to get it in. Most of my stuff I get it off Amazon or a couple other little parts places. The only thing I like about Amazon is they're a whole lot faster shipping than most of my small engines suppliers. But when I do need it and Amazon don't have it, then we'll go with the other guys. But anyways, so it'll be a day or so. We'll be back with it, show you how it runs, see if it'll cut some good wood, and that should about take care of them. So that's it for today. We'll let you see how it works when we get everything in for parts. Okay, and just like that, we come back. We've got the filter and a plug come in. So we'll go ahead and reinstall the plug. And we'll match up the air filter, which came actually as a full assembly, which I don't really need this piece. It's still in plenty good shape. So I think I'll just take this part and put the filter on there. We do match that up to make sure it matches the other one. A little bit different setup, I think. Well, maybe that's why it does that. This filter here, like I say, we had it, looks the same. This one has a bolt that goes through it, or screw, whichever you prefer. And this one here has an actual screw through it. But I think I like the little bolt, so I think we're going to throw that in there and just see if we can make this work that way instead. We'll set the nut back into it. We'll get this bolt out of here. Take that screw off of there. Well, we may not be able to. This one here may or may not fit through that new filter. So we'll have to see. Yeah, we're going to be able to screw it right through. I just kind of prefer a non-plastic adhesion on that. We'll see how that works out. Alright, that fits good. We'll take that, set it off the side, get rid of the dirty filter. So that's got that cleaned up. Our new plug. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. Let's see which one do we have here. Back on the plug. Make sure that's seated down in there where it belongs, so it's out of the way. Everything looks good there. And we'll set the cover back on it, and we'll be ready to fire it back up. That's good. And see if she'll run like she's supposed to. Hopefully the little tune-up I did the other day was good and it's still running good, we'll make sure. If not, we'll do some more fine tuning on it, but it should run good. So let me go ahead, fire it up, see how she sounds. Well, that's still not performing quite the way we want it to, so I've done some more adjusting on it, and it seems like it runs good for a little bit, but it's starting to bog out. So I think I'm going to have to pull that carburetor, and let's take a look at that. See, it's just not responding correctly. So thought I was done with this one. So let me take her back apart, pull that carburetor. Let's see what she looks like. Okay, to remove the carburetor, I've already gone ahead and take this back off. We'll need to go ahead and get a Torx and take these two out, and this one here it looks like. So let's see what we've got on that one there. Is that a T25? Yes, that would be a T25. We'll take the plate off of here. We'll set that to the side, and we'll take those two loose, and that actually pulls the whole carburetor right on out of there. Got a little gasket down in here. We'll want to make sure we have that available. It does have a little hole in the bottom of it, so if you put this back in there, we got to make sure that it lines back up. We may have a new gasket. I think I've got an actual carburetor for this one, so we might go ahead and just replace the carburetor anyways. This one looks like it's in pretty good shape. I don't know if that's a coincidence or if somebody's been in here and replaced the carburetor already. So anyways, we'll have to pull this back off and see if something was not done properly or what we've got on it. Or maybe they just had a bad carburetor, which is possible. Do all this hoses from around here. There we go, gets that out of the way. And I don't know, but that carburetor looks like it's pretty darn new. It's hard to say whether this one's been replaced or not. I just don't really know. So, I got the linkage a little bit here caught up. Let's go over the top of it here. I think. I'll make sure we keep track of how that's in there. It's hooked around it. I think it was under there. So we'll take that off. And we've just got one fuel line going into it. So that should be that. So, alrighty. Like I say, it acts like it's just a carburetor, but boy, that thing don't look very old. Almost hard to believe that there's that much trash around it and not the other. I do wish people would let us know everything that went on with it before they hand it to me. But I almost suspect maybe they got a bad carburetor. We might have to replace that. Let me see if I've got one. Okay, I did have an extra carburetor around. It looks like the same. I've moved this over to it. It's just hooking it back in. Make sure you set them side by side when you do a carburetor replacement. Everything looks the same. This has got a little bit of extra locks and stuff on it. We're not going to worry about that. We don't really need those because we're going to be adjusting them anyway. So there's a few little differences, but pretty much all the same. It should fit right back in there just fine. Choke looks like it's going to do fine. So I want to see here. I think I've got a gasket for it also. We'll try to replace that. Let's see if it's going to be the same as the one that's. See if that's it or not. Let's just make sure the holes line up and everything's there. So like I say, you do need to make sure this one here actually has it. I think so. You can't even mess it up. It comes with a gasket that It's actually flip-flop it whichever way you want to go with it. So we're there. We've got our ports cleared here. Just make sure that that's all breathable. Gas is out of the way a minute. So that looks good. I think we're going to go ahead and set this on back in there. Just like that. And this goes back on here. If we can, I think we can do that later. I have to fidget with this a little bit. This probably get boring on there, but basically just put it back together the way you found it. Make sure everything lines back up. And let's see, that choke lever was going through here. A little bit around. So it hooks into that and then swings around so it sits like that. And then the throttle linkage goes back in to the side of it where this one was. It's got a little spot there that hooks up. Let's see if I can get her back around that. I think it's got to go through that. This is where it sometimes gets confusing. You got to make sure you, well, there we go. We got the whole thing out of there. Let me see which way did that go through there now. I think it went this way. Okay, let me fool with this a minute and I'll show you what it is when I get done. Okay, I got this back together. I fooled around with it. It ain't the easiest one to do, but anyways, I don't know how well you're going to be able to pick up on that, but I'm going to try to show you how the linkages sit back in there. Hopefully it's focusing properly. So when you push the trigger, it's on the bottom side of that, opening and closing. I've got the gasket put in. Make sure if it comes with a different gasket that you line that hole up. Other than that, she should be ready to see if that makes the difference. So let me go ahead, I'll fire it up and we'll let you hear it running here in a second. Okay, I've got the saw up and running as you heard, but now all the things that went on while the camera was off. First of all, I had put the new carburetor on there and I thought I was going to start it up and just show you how it sounded, but when I went to try to start it, yeah, this thing didn't run at all. So I don't know what was going on, so that didn't work so well. So after I got all that rocking and rolling and it didn't want to work, I said to heck with it, and I tore the old carburetor back down. When I did that, just to see if there was something maybe in it, I did find some dirt and stuff in behind the thing. But also, I noticed this here is the mechanism, and I think I said something about it, that has limiters on here. When the carburetor's built, they have this little bracket on there, and then these little tabs kind of go over top of the actual adjustments. And they have little tabs on top of them that limit how much you can do this so that you don't get your saw too far out of adjustment. And all that's fine and dandy except for the low side here that I thought I was adjusting. All it was actually doing is just spinning around. It had no contact on that little joint. So when I figured that out, I pulled all that other stuff off of there, which is quite a bit of a job, and this bracket and everything else. And we got them all off of there, and then I could finally get in here and actually see and start turning these jets. Now most of these jets, you can take them and a lot of times if they just get a little trash or something in there, you can take them and just count your screws and screw them all the way in, screw them back out again, and put them back right where they were at, put it back in the carburetor, and you're good to go. And that's basically what happened here. Once I got that off where I could actually adjust the jets, put it back on the chainsaw, and you heard it. It fired right up. So that's pretty much it. This carburetor, I don't know. I'll probably tear it apart, see if I can figure out why it wouldn't run. And we'll kind of go from there. So anyways, sometimes they happen like that when you buy them from Amazon. I've heard before that, you know, not everybody has good luck with them. I most of the time do. This one here I think is maybe a knot, but we'll tear that one apart one day and see if we can figure out why it would not fire up. I think I'm going to take this out and see if I can cut a piece of wood or two with it, just to make sure everything's running right. And let's see how she looks that way. Make sure she's going good, and then we'll give her back to the old customer. Okay, what I do like to look at is what size chips and all are coming out of there. It's got some good looking chips. It's not just a fine sawdust. So that's a good piece of hickory actually. So that's cutting well. I think we're good to go. We'll call this one a wrapped up video, and we'll go on to the next project. Appreciate you watching. Hope you learned something. I did on this one. So we'll go ahead and put that one in the books, in the memory bank. So thanks a bunch for watching. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. I really do appreciate it. See you next time.